Hello, happy Thursday, footy fans. Welcome to an early edition of the OneSoccer Hangouts. I'm your host, Asa Raymond, and we are happy to have Kurt Larson back to tell us why we're wrong. Obviously, Oliver Platt joining us once again, and a special guest today. Very happy to have former TFC man, currently with the Oakland Roots, and Nana Attakora. Nana, thanks so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I understand we had to move this meeting a little bit earlier because you have a meeting with the club, I understand, later today. I was hoping to maybe have this after the meeting. Do you know what's going on? Do you have any news to break to us potentially?
Just our team has some mental, Zoom calls with a doctor, just helping us get stronger mentally. We've been on Zoom calls 3-4 times a week since, the whole COVID-19 stuff. So something I couldn't get out of, but I had to be able to join you guys. So here I am.
Yeah, we appreciate it. How have you stayed motivated since the start of the season? It was quickly halted. What have you been doing to keep busy and engaged with your teammates?
Yeah, like I said, Zoom. A lot of the guys actually stayed local, so I still see a lot of the guys. We all live in the same apartment. So apart from that, obviously, I've been keeping busy with the whole USL and all that stuff going on. So it's been very stressful. I would say, obviously not being able to play, but then dealing with just real world stuff right now. So it's been
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, Kurt, you're staying engaged, chatting with us pretty much every day. How are you staying motivated and focused on the game?
I staying motivated and focused more on the premiere, speaking every day at 1:00, waiting to hear what he opens up.
Yeah.
And so, what is marinas today? Golf courses on the weekend. I'm on the edge of my seat to hear what he's going to say today. So that's what I've been doing.
I get like a stream of texts from Kurt most afternoons now, just reacting to what the Premier has said. Not always positive.
I didn't appreciate the cheesecake post very much. So if you haven't seen the cheesecake post from the premiere, I didn't appreciate it. But a lot of people did. So maybe I'm on the minority here, right, Ollie?
Yeah, it seemed like people liked it. Relatable.
Yeah. All right, Nana. You signed with you have a pretty busy offseason. After being with the Ottawa Fury, you signed with the Oakland Roots in February, right around the same time that Atletico Ottawa was announced. What went into your decision to go back to California with Oakland?
Yeah, well, funny enough, I actually wasn't going to come to Oakland. That happened within 6 hours that deal. I was supposed to go to San Diego, the USL side. I had been speaking with Landon for a while. Our first conversation was probably last summer. Again, I didn't know Ottawa was going to fold. I had no intentions of leaving Ottawa. I had another year left on my contract, but
Yeah.
obviously the Ottawa thing happened real quick. Within 2-3 days, we knew there was no chance Ottawa was surviving. I packed up, went to Ghana because I'm there every off season, and I was done. I was going to go to San Diego. Then I got a call from Benno, the president, and Jordan. Spoke with them for about 3-4 hours. They laid out the vision of the club and the organization, and with everything I have here in the Bay Area, my girlfriend's from the Bay Area. I've obviously lived in the Bay Area a few years, so it just made more sense. I'm not at a place in my career where it's like the early parts. I'm getting to the later parts of my career, and for post-career, Oakland just seemed like the perfect fit.
What's it like being part of a team where you're not quite sure if there's going to be a team next year? I mean, what were you being told at the time, towards the end of last season? What was going to happen with the Ottawa Fury? I mean, were you guys positive that you guys were going to be back for another season, or was it just day to day?
Yeah, so it was actually really positive. That's why I would say this, like finding out the news when I found out at the end of the year was like a huge shock, because we had obviously heard talks of it. Let's not forget the previous year we struggled to get sanctioning, right? So we obviously knew there were some talks, but we were also being told that, things were moving in a positive direction. So I actually found out, before the team did, through the USL Players Association. We got some info that some stuff was going to be happening. So that's how I found out. I found out probably 2-3 weeks before, the rest of the team did. And it was a shock. Like I said, I had no intentions of leaving Ottawa. I loved Ottawa. I loved the club. Obviously, I'm back home in Canada. But, business is business, and there's certain things we can't control.
Yeah. So why'd you leave?
I mean,
there's still a club there.
Yeah, I know, but I also didn't know the club hadn't been announced before I signed. Yeah,
Okay.
I signed, then Ottawa that got announced.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Would that have been maybe an option for you if it had happened earlier, moving to the CPL club, or were you kind of more focused on San Diego and then Oakland by that point?
I'm not going to say I wasn't focused on San Diego. I really was. I like, everything Landon said was sounding interesting and stuff. But every player on Ottawa Fury would have stayed had we known CPL would have been. And we actually wanted, when we found out the team was going to fold, we were like, well, let's just go CPL. Right. We have something good here in Ottawa, right? Obviously, we all know what happened next, but it was sad. I would have loved to stay in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Canadian Premier League? Would you maybe join the CPL team down the road?
Oh, 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. I had a lot of conversations with CPL teams. And me and Steve Hart are obviously really close. So I spoke to Steve. I spoke to Jim at York 9. I spoke to a few people within the CPL. Obviously, I watched the CPL last year, and it's going to be a very good league. Obviously, you see they've sold players to Europe and stuff. That's entertaining. You got Kyle Becker and stuff, at David Edgar. I'm close with all these guys. So CPL was something I really considered last year. It just things, weren't able to work out. But hopefully, in the future, wherever my career goes, maybe I'm part of it.
Well, it seems like you find teams and you like building up teams. So you were part of that original TFC squad that started up. You saw you went through some of the growing pains there. Now you're in Oakland. What was that experience like in Toronto when you were just starting off your career?
It was interesting. I mean, obviously Toronto's home, and I love Toronto and everything. I would say the only frustrating part, and this is known, everybody knows how I feel about this, was just the constant changing of coaches and, management back then. It was good to see. I was at the MLS Cup win in Toronto, so it was good to see that the team finally became a powerhouse in North America, because I still believe all Toronto sports are, some of the biggest in North America. So to see what Toronto FC has done, obviously I was very happy to see that. But yeah, it was a fun time. I learned a lot. I got to play with some unbelievable players. I got to be coached by some very good coaches. And I'm here today because of Toronto. Let's not kid ourselves, right? So I feel like I owe everything to Toronto, that club, the city. Like I said, I love it. I always will. I'm still a supporter to this day. And I'm just happy to see what they've done and the respect they're finally getting.
You have an interesting kind of perspective on this, because like you said, you're here and you've had a lengthy career because of Toronto FC, but a lot of young players that came through that same system didn't actually go on to make it. Maybe it was because of the lack of development in the game back then. Maybe the players just weren't good enough. But what were the challenges maybe you faced as a young player, say in 2007 when MLS was just getting going in Toronto, compared to what you see now with the academy and the training ground and everything that's kind of given to the young players up here? Was it a different time back then?
Yeah, it definitely was. I joke around a lot and say that these young kids, they have everything now. They actually do, if you really look at it. But, back then, I got to play, and Toronto actually had a lot of players that were better than me, a lot of players. And it's sad. I feel like if we did have an academy, Canadian soccer would be in a whole different space right now. Let's not get it twisted with the Alfonsos and the Jonathan Davids. We're in a very good place right now. But there was a lot of talent back then. It's just that we didn't have academies. So you have 16, 17-year-olds playing with full-on professionals. They're not going to be good enough, right? And, it's unfortunate a lot of them got released or, didn't make it. But, I mean, now with the academies and you see 14, 15-year-olds making it out and stuff. So I'm happy to see it. It was about time, Canadian soccer finally developed. I also feel like back then it was more of an American league, and it was hard for Canadians to break in. Now with the Oso, look what Oso's done for Canadian soccer and MLS, himself, right? So, like I said, I'm happy to see it. I'm happy we're finally at a place where we're developing.
Yeah, well, you mentioned as well that the lack of stability in those early years, which I can't imagine helps young players much either. How do you kind of reflect on that now and how it ended for you at TFC with that contract year? And maybe it seemed like you were kind of cast aside a little bit because you were waiting to see which direction the club was going. Do you kind of feel you were mistreated a little bit there, or would you have done anything differently in hindsight?
Mistreated. I mean, people look at it how they look at it. I'm 31 now, right? So I've matured and stuff, and I've seen a lot worse situations. throughout the years than that. So I wouldn't say mistreated. I'll if I had known what I know now, I could have handled it differently as well. But I wouldn't change anything though, because what it's done to me as a person, just forget the soccer player, those experiences and everything I experienced after that have really helped me grow as a man. So, I mean, I don't regret anything. Again, I would have loved to stay in Toronto. I would love to be in Toronto right now, right? Who wouldn't? But, from life experiences alone, what I've gained from leaving Toronto has been immense. So I wouldn't take anything back.
How challenging was it? Sorry, so how challenging was it to then go outside of Canada and play in America in MLS and be a Canadian player? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but you would have been an international player at the time, right?
Yeah. So that's a very good point. I went to San Jose, obviously, but San Jose was great. They started my green card process right when I got there. So getting that green card, which for Canadians, for any foreigner, is literally gold in MLS, was crucial. I've been able to. Well, it's easier to get clubs in America now with the green card. And I look at some of my friends who don't have that green card and the struggle it is for them to come to America, right? So, like I said, if I don't take anything back because leaving Toronto has given me all these things that I have now. So, but yeah, it was tough. I'm not going to sit here and say it was tough. I was young in another country, another coast. I had no family here at the time, but obviously I was able to meet a lot of people. And it's a big reason why I came back here to Oakland.
What about the decision to go to Finland then and then come back? What was that experience like for you?
Finland was the toughest part. Not too many people know the story behind that, but I'd been obviously in San Jose 2011, and I was in contact with the Whitecaps at the time to join them. And that was something I really wanted to do. Again, being that young, I think I was like 20, 21 at the time. I wanted to go back to Canada. Vancouver was the best thing for me at the time. I was close with the coaching staff, a lot of the players. But as you guys know, there was rules within MLS that there was no free agency for certain players. I couldn't just leave. I needed to get my rights traded. I'm not going to sit here and bash any one club, but I couldn't get my rights traded. I spent the summer just training in Vancouver, just staying in a hotel, training. And then it got to a point where I had to go play for a club. I couldn't just keep training. So Finland offered me a couple months to go there and just play, and then I could leave and come back right at the end of the year. And that's what I did. I had no intentions of going to Finland. I just needed to go play games, So went and did that, came back and went back to San Jose.
So yeah, how frustrating, I guess, is that for a player to basically be told where they can and can't go when you're tied up in a contract like that?
Like I said, that for me, if I was to tell you the toughest part of my career, that was it right there. Especially where you guys know how pro sports are. It doesn't last forever, right? So I had an opportunity. I just wanted to go and play before that opportunity wasn't there anymore, right? These clubs move on; they don't wait for no one. So that was tough for me. Very, very tough. Luckily, I had a good support system to help me deal with it. Finland turned out to be a great experience. I learned a lot about myself. So, like I said, everything kind of worked out for me. But while it was happening, it was very tough, very stressful. I felt alone in it, obviously. Didn't know where to turn, but, I got through it.
Do you feel like you've had maybe quite a bit more obstacles than a few other players, and especially Canadians now? I mean, you're talking about issues moving between clubs. You're talking about with yourself. I believe you had a spat of injuries there for a little bit. How did that impact you in your career and your trajectory?
Well, yeah, it obviously impacted a lot, but again, I like to take the more optimistic, positive side and look at what I gained from those experiences. I mean, I had a concussion where I was told, everyone was telling me to retire, 2013. And that was after I dealt with all the nonsense, 2011, 2012, got back, started playing extremely well for San Jose, and then a concussion against Toronto, against Daniil Henry, who is like one of my closest friends, So you look at all that stuff, it was like, when is this going to end? When am I going to actually catch a break? But, that 8 months I didn't play from that concussion, I was being told to retire from every single doctor I saw. It builds character. I could confidently say there's not too many things that could break me now in life. I've dealt with every hard thing I could deal with, right? You look at my career alone, like you said, there are injuries and clubs and contracts. I legit dealt with it all, I feel like, but I wouldn't take any of it back. Obviously, if just one of those situations had worked out differently, I could probably be somewhere else right now. I'm not, I'm not naive. I know how it works, but I can't complain. Like you said, I've had a very long career. People followed after 2-3 years. I'm going on to 15, right? So I take the positives away from it.
With all that kind of adversity that you have been through, is there a period of your career or your career so far, because it's still going, that you look back on most fondly?
Yeah. I would say 2014 in DC. And it's funny, you go look at the stats in DC. I wasn't able to play one regular season game. I was hurt all year. I got another concussion. I tore my quad in the national team camp. Injury-wise, that was my worst year. But off the field, I met a lot of people to this day that are very crucial in my life. Excuse me. I'll say Eddie Johnson, the Sean Franklins. Like, I got to play with all these guys. Bill Hamids. Like, I'm very close with all these guys. So, it gets to a point where you realize, like, you make real friendships and people who could, really impact your life. So 2014, people, when I talk about that year, people are like, well, you were hurt all year. How'd you? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But I met some great people. I was coached by Ben Olsen, who for me is probably like, he's the perfect player coach. That dude is crazy. Like,
I was going to ask you about him. I heard he's tackling players in practice, cleats up. What can you tell me a little bit about?
Unbelievable. And that's all true. He'll talk crazy to players too. Like, I tackled you, tackle me back, So like, getting to experience all of that and meet someone like Ben, who like a person like Diro has probably done everything there is to do in, North American soccer, but such a humble guy and stuff. So, people think it was a tough time for me in DC. No, like, it was a great year, arguably one of the best years of my life, right? So
it's also a great city.
Great, unbelievable city. But,
yeah. I'm a little surprised you mentioned 2014 as your fondest memories of playing this, because you were involved in that 2009 Canadian Championship TFC squad, the Miracle of Montreal. You needed a 4-goal win, and you ended up taking that one 6-1. What do you remember from that experience, and where does that rank for you?
Yeah, that actually, it's funny you said I hadn't thought about that. So going into that game, I remember I was super young on that team. So like, you hear the older guys talk about the game before we go out there. We had absolutely nothing to lose. If I'm going to be honest with you, we're like, okay, let's just go get this game over. I remember the Whitecaps were actually at the game.
Yeah. How do you have friends for the Whitecaps after going through that experience?
Yeah. So I was really close to Randy and Winnie Bonsu, very close to them. So they're all sitting there. We're like, let's just get this game over. Let them win. Let's get out of here. I believe they scored first to that game. So we were like, all right, like 80-something minutes left. Let's just, and then Diro scores a ton of goals. We end up winning. And for me, the best part, it wasn't so much like how we won. It was seeing the Whitecaps' reaction.
Oh, yeah. I remember
that for me was unbelievable. I remember they were the goalie at the time for Montreal. Was it Serge? And
I thought was it not Matt Jordan? Maybe no.
I can't remember who played, but I just remember the fans absolutely killing this guy. Like, you threw the game, but for me, seeing the Whitecaps reaction, like, you guys were arrogant. You thought you counted us out, so let's celebrate in front of you guys. That for me was my TFC career. That was my best memory.
Yeah, that was standout. So, what do you remember from that, Ollie?
That was before my time, but obviously before I came to Canada. But I've seen the highlights, and just one of those games where Diro did what he did, right?
Yeah,
Diro, as you mentioned.
Yeah, my memories are the exact same. I can't remember. I don't remember who was coaching at the time. It wasn't Tater Torgerson, was it? Was it maybe? I'm not sure, but the cameras kept panning to him after every single goal. I think the game was on Sportsnet. I remember they would just pan to this section of the Vancouver Whitecaps and their head coach after every single goal, and it was amazing to watch.
The reactions were great. No, that was something.
It was unbelievable. I remember that so well.
Yeah, I just want to know what that meant to you going on in that CONCACAF Champions League and then losing the preliminary rounds to Puerto Rico. What do you remember from that experience, and how did that impact your career?
Yeah, so my first time in the CONCACAF, I didn't understand how big that tournament really was. like the type of teams you're going to play, or forget the teams, the players you're going to come across, you know. So like year one was an experience. I just took it in, you know, like I wasn't so much worried about results. It was just experience for me, you know. The second time I was in there, obviously I knew more about the league, and now it's like, let's compete because this could change lives, you know.
Yeah.
So CONCACAF, I really, you know, appreciated being a part of that. To see what TFC did and then losing in the way they lost, that would have been, you know, for me as a fan. I remember watching that. I believe I was in Ottawa, and everyone was in my place just watching that game, you know. So that tournament, now we know how big it is, obviously. So it was a great experience just to be a part of it.
Yeah. You mentioned this is going back to California for yourself, joining Oakland because you were part of the San Francisco Delta's fascinating story as well there in their first season, 2017. They finished second in the Spring League, second in the Fall League, ended up winning the championship, though, and then folding days later. Yeah, Kyle Becker told us a few stories about that time. What do you remember? What stands out? What's the wildest memory you have from the San Francisco Deltas?
Oh my God. I can only imagine what Becker told you, because Becker was one crazy guy in that year. He didn't care about anything. The way he lived was unbelievable. But I don't know what he told you guys. But for me, it was just, we found out in the summer. We found out in the summer that the team was done. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. No one really got along with the CEO at all. Okay. You know. So for him to come in and tell us the way he did, we also had Todd Donovan, who I have so much respect for. He was our GM. And they basically tried to get rid of Todd to save money. And the players were like, no, we're not having that. You know, like Todd is one of us. Like they had basically separated. You have to pick sides. Either you're with the players or you're with, you know, this guy saying the team. So we're like, Todd's one of us. If Todd's going, then okay, well, we'll make a real issue. So he ended up conceding. Todd stayed. I remember he actually got upset at Todd, wondering what Todd had told us for us to make that decision. And we're like, this has nothing to do with Todd. He's one of us. Like right now, it's us versus you, right? So we just told ourselves, we don't care about anything. We're going to live our lives the best we can. If we were going to party, we're going to party. But we'll show up. We ended up winning a game, 2 games, 3 games. And then I remember, like, we actually have a chance of winning this whole thing. You know, like no team could play with us that year, except for Miami, who was a really good team. So as we kept picking up points, we're like, you know what? Let's just a huge screw you to this guy. Let's win, so he pays us all our bonuses. We had some silly bonuses that year, and he was trying to save money. We're like, we're trying to take as much money away from this guy as we could. We ended up winning, and he wants to pretend he's happy and stuff. We knew he wasn't happy for us.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the big thing, just to be like, you know what? Screw you. We did this, and don't come celebrate with us. You know.
Can you tell me more about these? Can you tell me more about these silly bonuses? I'm very interested in my next contract here at Media Pro. What kind of silly bonuses I should put into my deal?
No, I mean, that team did have. We had a good budget. That team. We had some good owners. So I didn't think they thought a year one team would be able to go that far.
Yeah.
You know. So let's just put this in there so we could get these players to come. They're not going to go that far anyways.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing. So.
Well, I think Kyle
led by Marco Santos as well.
Sorry?
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Ollie.
Sorry, I cut out a little bit there. I was just going to say, I think Carl left out the part about himself that you alluded to there, but he did tell us one story about Miami coming to play you and Alessandro Nesta as the coach, obviously, and you're playing at a public park and getting changed outside. Does that ring a bell?
Oh my, yeah. So I actually didn't play that game. I had knee issues, but we played at this park where I actually hurt my knee, and I'm not over exaggerating. You could go to any public park in Toronto. We would prefer to play on that than this field. They had a water issue, so like the field was all like soaking wet and muggy, and you would run like it was just. I was watching the game like, what am I watching right now? Everyone's slipping. No one. You can't put 3 passes together. So Miami being Miami comes in, the budget they had is bigger than most MLS teams. And they're like, what? We're not playing here. Well, we're like, yeah, you have no choice. You could leave. Give us the points. We needed it at the time. But like, just to watch that game, there's like 50 people in the stands. Yeah, I try to have cameras and make it look professional. I'm like, this is embarrassing. Yeah, I remember that game very well.
Yeah, the guys, it was like a men's league. Kyle Becker describes it as, putting your shin pads and boots on, basically on the sideline, just sitting on the park, getting all dressed for that game.
Yeah, exactly like that, if not worse. Exactly like a men's league. It was so poor. I'm just like, I couldn't believe it.
That was I think Asa was saying when you're cutting out a little bit there, that was a good side though as well, and you played under Mark Dos Santos, who's obviously gone on to have a lot of success himself. It was a good experience, at least from a footballing perspective, with that group of guys.
Yeah, Mark for me was the best coach I've had. I tell everyone that Mark, the way he coached, and not even just Mark, the staff he had put together. Obviously, Phil came in mid-season when Andrea left, but the way they coached the team and the way Mark was able to get the most out of every player, like even a player who rarely plays, like this guy would still go through a wall for Mark, which was crazy to me. But yeah, Mark, he put together a real special team. We had hard workers. I say Miami had like better footballers, like individually wise, but we had collectively as a team, we weren't gonna. Our mentality was so good that year, and that was all thanks to Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on your current club now. I've got about 5 minutes left here, Nana. The Roots, Oakland Roots, great branding. The kits look great. Tell us more about the club, though. What have you learned in your short time there already?
Yeah, what I learned is you get a group of individuals who actually care about a community and the sport, that it's scary how far a club can go. Obviously, I came into this based off of words. A lot was told to me. So I knew like, okay, it's easy to talk. I want to see what this club's all about. And then when I got here and the more I started, meeting people and speaking with people in the community, people in the organization, it was so evident that this club has big ambitions and goals, right? Like they want to do really big things. So they got the community behind them. Like you said, they got probably the best branding I've seen at any club I've been a part of. And it's a NISA team, right? So like, if they could accomplish even a half of the goals they want to, this club could be one of the most attractive clubs in North America. I feel like they remind me a lot of Toronto in the early days, and everybody knows how ambitious Toronto was, right? And look what Toronto is doing now. So if they could just, like I said, if they could complete just a half of what they want to do, it could be one of the most attractive destinations in U.S. soccer.
Yeah, it seems like they've kind of very quickly become a part of Oakland's sporting culture and being accepted there. What's kind of the secret to getting that level of acceptance so quickly?
I would say the owners. The owners, like Steve, one of our main, owners, he's very hands-on. Like, most of you guys know how it is with pro teams. You rarely see the owners of the team. We're not talking about the president or GM. We're talking about the owner. You rarely see them. This guy's at games. He comes to trainings. He dresses normal. He's not in a suit. He's wearing Oakland Roots gear. Very approachable, and he loves more than anything the community. So it's like this baby of an investment of his is for the community. It's not to make him richer, or he's doing it for the community. So the community has a big say in what the club does. It's just different. I don't even look at it as a business, which it is, but it's just like I feel like I'm part of an actual family here with a common goal. So I'm very happy with the decision I made. When I look back at it, a lot of people are like, well, you should have went to San Diego. Landon Donovan. I'm like, yeah, Landon Donovan's great, but the way I feel every day waking up is like I feel joy and excitement. And as a player, that's what you need, or else you're gonna struggle. You won't make it, right? So the fact that I'm able to wake up happy, looking forward to what the day holds, that alone tells me I made the right decision.
Yeah. Last question then, Nana. Do you see yourself ending your career there?
I do. I try to think of a way not to say, but I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I definitely do. And I would love to be here long term to see where the club can actually go to. So the club's been great, for me personally, helping me get experience elsewhere, not just on the field. So it's going to be exciting, the next 12, 18 months. So we'll see.
Yeah. Can't wait to see you back on the field. Thanks so much for joining us. And Nana, quick reminder of some of the things that we have coming up on the OneSoccer YouTube network. Later today, Gareth Wheeler going inside the game with Patrice Bernier. That should be a great show. And then Forge Pacific, a rewatch as well tonight on the OneSoccer YouTube channel. Definitely want to catch that as well. For Kurt Larson, Oliver Platts, Nana Attakora, I'm Asa Rahman. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you back on the Hangout tomorrow.
Thanks, Nana.
Thanks, Nana. Appreciate it.
Thank you.